A secret agent named Twilight is tasked with the job of investigating a certain public figure, and the only way to do it is to create a fake family and enroll his kid in the same academy as the public figure's child. Unbeknownst to him, he adopts a telepathic idiot for a daughter, and gets a merciless assassin to play the role of his wife. After one of their diplomats mysteriously dies in Ostania, the big shots at Westalian intelligence gather to discuss the so-called accident. Of course, it's never just a car crash in spy stories. They suspect it's the work of an East far-right political party. Clearly, someone's been watching too much Attack on Titan and decided war was the answer. To stop these wannabe titans from sparking a world war, someone suggests sending their best agent, Twilight. You know, because every top-secret mission requires a cool code name. Shout out to the legendary James Bond. Meanwhile, in another part of town, an investigator is handing a shady man named Edgar evidence of a foreign minister's worst-kept secret. The guy's toupee gets majestically shifted by the wind in a photo. Turns out that man wasn't the real Edgar, but was Twilight pulling off a classic Mission Impossible face swap. The real Edgar shows up seconds later, realizing he's been duped, and somewhere out there, Tom Cruise nods approvingly. Later, Twilight, now disguised as Robert, a gentleman who apparently is the boyfriend of the minister's daughter, goes on a date with her. She's too busy complaining about her dad's mood to realize she's on the verge of getting dumped. She suddenly hints at him about marriage like every character in How I Met Your Mother. But Twilight, who is totally over the whole domestic life thing, breaks up with her and cuts ties. Total badass. As he leaves, he dramatically discards his fake glasses and mask, like he's walking away from the most disappointing season finale ever. Next, we find Twilight at a train station, exchanging newspapers with a shady old guy who decides to meow as part of a secret code. Of course, playing the role of Inspector Gadget, he totally decodes the code and heads onto the train. On the train to Berlin, he reads the hidden message from his organization, WISE, congratulating him for his latest toupee-stealing mission. But now they've got something even bigger, Operation Strix. Turns out the target is Donovan Desmond, the ultra-paranoid leader of the National Unity Party. Twilight is required to go full Naruto and build a fake family to get close to the guy at an elite school, which both their children coincidentally attend. With only a week to find a wife and kid, Lil Bro is now on a mission even more impossible than any Bond movie or Gossip Girl plot twist. It seems even tougher than listening to KSI's new song. In Berlin, Twilight, now going by Loid Forger, decides that if he's going to fake a family, he needs a proper apartment with escape routes more elaborate than an Attack on Titan maneuver. After confirming there are no wiretaps or hidden ninjas, Loid signs the lease under his shiny new identity as a psychiatrist. After taking care of that, he heads to an orphanage, and the owner, who's clearly a mini plus-size drunkard, practically tells him to pick any child he wants. Loid thinks hard, and then asks for a kid who can read and write, and the owner, trying to offload his creepiest child, points out Anya, the smartest one there. In reality, the geezer just wants to get rid of her because she gives off that The Ring vibe. He hesitates because she looks a little too young, but Anya, who's secretly a telepath, reads his mind and immediately claims she's 6. Then, to seal the deal, she grabs a crossword puzzle. Loid's internal monologue is already solving it at lightning speed, but when Anya hands it over, completely solved, he's floored. Naturally, he assumes she's some kind of prodigy, not realizing she's been reading his thoughts like they're subtitles in an anime. Excited by the prospect of a genius child for his mission, he adopts Anya, who is equally thrilled to be living with an actual spy. She's basically living out her Spy Wars fantasy. On the way home, Loid briefs her that she has to pretend she's always been his daughter and call him father. But as soon as they enter their new apartment, Anya spots the TV and loses all interest in his pep talk because Spy Wars, her favorite TV show, is on. Loid, needing to forge an ID for her, tries to go out, but Anya insists on tagging along. Predictably, she immediately gets lost in a crowd, so he's forced to hold her hand. But in his head, he's still focused on the possibility of an enemy ambush. Anya, hearing this, panics and hides behind a sign like she's in Metal Gear Solid. He realizes that understanding this child will require more than spycraft, so he vows to improve their relationship, to which Anya, telepathic as ever, responds by talking about her love of peanuts and crispy bacon while pointing at a shop. Trying to make sense of her babbling, he corrects that she's pointing at a bakery, not a bacon shop, while silently questioning her intelligence. Things don't improve when Anya tries to buy a Spy Wars poster with an embarrassingly small 10-pence coin, prompting him to wonder if her earlier crossword success was just a fluke. Just when he's considering a return trip to the orphanage, Anya starts crying, loudly begging him not to replace her. because if Full Metal Alchemist taught us anything, it's that making a scene in public always works. Loid, flustered, offers her peanuts as a peace offering, and she calms down, proving that peanuts are Anya's kryptonite, or should I say red bean soup, as in the case of Big Mom. As they head home, she falls asleep, and Loid, utterly baffled by this whole parenthood thing, heads to the library to borrow some child-rearing books, because even super spies need a crash course on raising kids. While studying, he decides that he's going to return her back to the orphanage as soon as he's done with his mission. The next day, Loid decides to test Anya's intelligence for the school entrance exam by giving her homework, but the over-the-top toddler doesn't see the point in studying when she can just dub someone else's mind. Annoyed, he leaves and tells her to stay put. Of course, Anya, like Naruto running towards danger, tries to follow him sneakily, but Loid, master spy, catches her in no time. To keep her home, he goes full Home Alone and barricades the door. He then meets his informant Frankie Franklin, who totally looks like he'd run an underground eBay. Frankie hands him an exam application and info on Anya. Turns out she's been adopted and returned 4 times in the past year. Meanwhile, bored at home, Anya's in full One Piece treasure hunting mode. She stumbles upon Loid's spy gear and mistakenly sends a taunting message to Edgar as Twilight. Realizing she may have just doomed them both, she panics and cleans everything up, terrified that her new father will kick her back to the orphanage. Loid returns, immediately senses something's wrong, and takes down a group of thugs who ambush him out of nowhere. He realizes Anya's been kidnapped. He almost considers cutting his losses, but reminded of his own lonely childhood, he rescues Anya in disguise. Little did he know that the little girl reads minds instead of faces. Edgar wants Loid to steal a toupee, but instead, Loid traps him and his men in a Home Alone-style dust-up of flour and fists. After scaring Edgar by threatening his daughter Karen's future, he finds Anya waiting outside, despite the fact that he had told her to go to the police station while in his disguise. Approaching her now as Loid, he comes up with a silly excuse about being in the neighborhood for business and asks why she's outside. Anya then tells him she just played a scary game of tag with some old guys. On the way home, he tells her they'll have to move to a new apartment because of a snake. Nice cover, Loid. Fast forward to the day of the exam. Anya tries to cheat with her telepathy, but overhears the other candidates lamenting that they're so cooked, so she relies on Loid's prep and ends up passing. Loid celebrates, only to collapse from sheer accumulated exhaustion. Back home, Loid is passed out on the couch. Anya snuggles up next to him and hands him a letter when he wakes. It's about the next phase of the admissions process, which is a family interview, and the take is that both parents need to be there, leaving no exceptions. They both realize that they're cooked,